Hello, viewer. You might have seen some other rankings on other channels, or you might have seen other rankings on this channel. That's good. I hope you like rankings, because we have a very special ranking for you here. Do not get angry if you do not agree with the rankings set out before you. It's just a bunch of opinions. We have fun, and I hope you do too. It is your choice whether you want to enjoy this fun ranking. Live or die. I mean, watch or don't watch. Make your choice.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to You Rankin' with me. I am one of your hosts, Chadwick Webb, and over there we have my other co-host, James Tancock. We have three amazing guests here. We're all going to be talking about the Saw series, everybody's favorite, right? Yeah, it's actually been a little bit of a break that we've had on here, but we've had a lot of great times watching horror movies and getting into some of these horror rankings that we're trying to do. We have a couple other ones that we're going to do after this, but very excited to talk about Saw. I think it's a very divisive franchise, and we'll go ahead and get into that. So how the show works is we've all ranked these movies. There's 10 of them after Saw X was just released. We're going to start with our number 10, so all the way at the bottom of our list, and we're going to work our way up to number 1. It looks like because we have a good solid 10, I would say if it's in your top 3, we can do a wait for it. And if it's not, then we can go ahead and talk about it right then and there. So what that means is if it's in your top 3, we don't want to talk about it right away. If someone has it like a lot lower, so just say wait for it, say hold on a second for that one, or I have that in my top 3, whatever you want to say to let us know that you love that one so much. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it, and we can start with we'll start up at the top with Dylan for his number 10.
All right, my number 10 is I guess this is Saw 7, aka Saw 3D, aka Saw the Final Chapter. There's 3 titles, but that is my last place.
Yep. Hunter, what is your number 10?
Saw 3D, Saw the Final Chapter as well.
All right, let's see if this goes on a run. Austin, what's your number 10?
Jigsaw.
Okay. James,
Wow.
number 10.
Spiral.
Okay, and my number 10 is Saw 3D. So we do have 3 saying Saw 3D. No one said wait for it for that one, so it's not that much higher for other people, it feels. So we'll go ahead and talk about this one. Dylan, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, this one, I would say if we're ranking it by like rewatchability and entertainment, this may actually be a little higher because I think I'd be more likely to rewatch this one over some other ones because I think this one is by far the worst one, I think, in just its construction, its design. I think the 3D gimmick is like really bad in retrospect. I mean, maybe it would have been different seeing it with the 3D, but it kind of makes it so over the top and unnecessary. But I think kind of looking at it from the lens of so bad it's good, I think it's much better because it does have like almost laughably bad moments. But I think if we're just ranking them on like which is the better movie, I think this is easily last place for me just because I think just none of it really works. But I think it is entertainingly bad in a way that some of the other Saw movies aren't. So I did kind of toy with the idea of putting it a little higher for that reason, but when I'm looking at them in terms of quality, the other movies, despite maybe being a little bit more boring or forgettable for me, this one's definitely more memorable, but I think this deserves last place for all the reasons I've said. So
Yeah, absolutely. Hunter, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, what do you think about Saw 3D or Saw 7?
So the problem I have with this movie is it takes what made the previous Saw movies great, which was people who are in the traps deserve to be in the traps and their survival. This one takes someone who doesn't deserve to be in a major trap, talking about the one at the very end with the turnbull flames. And this woman did not deserve that. She had nothing to do with it. And she gets put in there for no reason and gets one of the worst deaths in the series for no reason at all. So it's jumbled in its messages of who deserves to be put in the traps and who doesn't deserve to be put in the traps, and just overall, it turned itself into a slasher with Hoffman just stabbing people in the police, precinct that makes no sense. It really flies way too far off what I like about the Saw franchise.
Absolutely. Austin, what do you say?
I had a number 8, so I had a few higher than my final 2, only because I think still with Kevin Grader at the helm, who, by the way, came in halfway through the production of this movie and had to pick up the pieces from what had already been filmed and kind of salvage and edit together what had already been done and do a couple of last-minute reshoots when the movie's already scheduled to come out. And you feel that in the movie, but it still feels like an oversaw movie, unlike my final 2 spots in my slots in this ranking here. There was a backstory of deleted stuff, Hunter, where the wife did know what was going on and was helping him do the scam, so she would have been in on it, but they cut that out of the movie. It's a deleted stuff. But the way it's constructed, yes, it does feel very cruel. There's an interesting concept with the Bobby Dagan stuff that just kind of isn't used properly, and the survivors group and whatnot that just kind of comes out of nowhere, but I still get a couple of guilty pleasure moments. I like Hoffman just being a Terminator in the end of this movie, just mowing through everybody and stabbing people in the neck over and over again. I laughed out loud in the theater. I remember the whole theater was laughing when we saw that just because of how silly it was. So I can get some smiles out of this one, just unlike my final 2, which I just don't get much of enjoyment out of.
Nice. James.
Yeah, I had Saw 7 at number 7, so I like this one a good bit more, I guess, than you guys a little bit. I think the intro scene, you get a bit of Chester Bennington in there, and I love Chester Bennington, Linkin Park, all that kind of stuff, so it's always good to, get to see him again. Rest in peace to that guy for sure. It's got, honestly, I think my personal worst trap situation thing, which I know a lot of folks hate the needles in Saw 2, which I don't like either, but I think it's the part where the girl gets the fish hook pulled up through her body.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty hard to stomach, to be honest. I think something like that's a little bit too real for anyone who knows, obviously how fish hooks work in general. It's hard for me to stomach that one, so that's like my personal worst kind of scenario. I didn't mind how he gets put into the trap after explaining to everyone how he survived it, who's kind of full of shit from the beginning. So that part was kind of interesting to me. I thought one pretty funny bit of dialogue was when they were in the support group and everyone's trying to go over all the horrors they experienced and the trauma and all the life situations they were in and they were facing and going through, and did they learn anything or not. And she's the one black girl who has to cut her arm off in the beginning, kind of interrupts the one. She's like, no, you know what the worst part of all this is? Handicap marking at the damn mall. I don't know, it's probably, it's probably not fun to have to do that. I'm thankful I don't need to, but I feel like if everyone's trying to explain their life experiences with this and all the personal issues they have, and like the one lady was talking an abusive relationship she couldn't leave, that's not always an easy thing to kind of get around. So it was an interesting kind of jut in for her to complain about the handicap parking when I think everyone else had way more personal issues at hand. So that was just kind of a funny piece of dialogue that stood out to me. I didn't mind this one overall. I kind of like the way the story unfolds. When the guy gets the whole wall full of acid needles in his back, that was pretty gnarly.
Saw 6.
Is that 6? Am I getting these mixed up already?
You're already starting to mix up movies. Yeah.
Am I? All right. Okay. Well, I'll leave Saw 7 at that then. It's my number 7.
No worries, James. Yeah, that's kind of the issue with the Saw franchise just as a whole. It just feels like a lot of the time.
I don't know. It just sounds like some of y'all aren't true Saw fans and don't know the difference between one movie to another. But that's on y'all, not me. If we want to start debating these movies, we can get into that too. I didn't get to have a battleground match tonight, so I'm down. Let's go.
That's okay. We don't have to that. But what I'm saying is that these movies do quite blend together, unless you've seen them a lot, like I'm sure Austin has. where you're just like, wait, what trap is in what kind of thing and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like I do also kind of suffer from that confusion sometimes when I'm trying to like piece them together, but um, really a lot of them kind of just blend together for me so much that it is actually hard to rank these. I was like, I know which ones I really, really like, and the rest I find in some enjoyment in most of them pretty much. So I have to like nitpick a lot when I'm trying to actually find which ones I really don't like. And for this one, I feel like it has a lot of good stuff in it. I do like Sean Patrick Flannery. I like the Dr. Gordon thing at the end. I thought was an interesting twist. Because they're always trying to do some cool twist at the end. But in Dr. Gordon, he did say game over, which there's one movie that the villain at the end doesn't say game over, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you say it? But the thing that I thought was the weakest for this one was the cinematography and just like kind of a lot of the stuff Dylan was talking about, where I'm like, this kind of like is so like it just looks weird because they're trying to do like a 3D gimmick, I guess,
Gimmick,
and
yeah.
just the way it looks, I'm like, it looks so surreal and just it just feels like they're like it feels cheap is what I'm trying to say. I mean, they're all kind of cheaply made, but this one I feel like feels the most cheaply made. Even though some of the kind of construction of the traps are kind of cool, like the furnace and that the woman was trapped in, I thought was pretty crazy. And yeah, I thought it was an interesting kind of plot for uh he's never been in a trap, but he's trying to say that he was, so let's throw him in a trap kind of a deal. But it just kind of feels like it's not really tied to like John and his cancer that much, or just so kind of divorced from the actual main story. So yeah, this one I put at 10, even though I don't mind it. Like I have fun with it. So Austin, what's your number 9?
Spiral.
All right, James.
Saw 5.
So 5, okay. My number 9 is also Spiral. Dylan, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Saw 4.
Oh, okay. And Hunter, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Saw 3.
Oh, punt that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's not in my top 3, but it's a little bit higher up. Saw 3. All right, so not 2 people said Spiral, right? Or not 3 people, but 2 people said it, right?
James has
Yeah.
said it already, so 3 people have said it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about Spiral, and we'll start with Hunter.
So Spiral, I had it kind of higher up on my list, not that much higher, but I do like this movie as a standalone, kind of Saw chapter that's not tied into the franchise. I think using more of the police procedural and going back to like the original idea of like this being police based with the traps being the secondary story was really cool. Chris Rock, I think he did an okay job. I love Samuel L. Jackson in this film. Overall, I think it's not a terrible film. I like the whole kind of reason why the people are in the traps. Like they have good reasons to put them in the traps. Overall, I didn't hate this film. I just think it's a very departure from the rest of the Saw franchise.
Yeah, great. James.
Yeah, that's probably what made me put it lower, like at number 10. I think it may just from the rest of what we'd seen before was maybe just too far of a departure for me. I wasn't quite sold on Chris Rock. Unfortunately, he's always going to be Marty the zebra from Madagascar to me, so it's really hard to see him trying to issue commands as an actual police officer in that kind of high-pitched, yelly, kind of whiny voice. So it was hard for me to kind of accept that, but, I appreciate the movie for what it was. I'm glad we got some more Saw. Like I say, I would agree with Hunter. Like it did kind of get back to like what the original kind of was, but I just think there wasn't enough there for me to like it that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna mirror that quite a bit. This is my number 9, and I don't think Chris Rock could really carry it, but I was actually kind of like hoping that he would keep up a little bit of like the humor throughout. Like it bothered me that like at the beginning he was doing some sort of like, talking about like Forrest Gump and making like a lot of jokes about movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And,
I came from work. I literally have my Bubba Gump uniform on.
Yeah.
and he didn't like keep that kind of humor throughout. It then went into the police procedural stuff, which I didn't think that really worked for me either. It didn't really work as like a big like police like commentary on that type of stuff and the corruption there. Watch like LA Confidential or something like that if you want that, but don't watch Spiral for any deep messaging about police stuff. I didn't like that they started to just change up the voice for like
the voice
Yeah.
is horrendous in this movie.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
It
I was going to
feels
talk about that.
Yeah, it feels so fake, and it's like, just think about it. Think about if they did a Scream film and you don't have Roger Jackson doing the Scream voice. It would feel so weird. Like they're always trying to find some sort of way.
Like when he goes, "Hello, detective, live
Detective.
or die, make your choice."
Exactly, yeah.
I'll talk to you soon. Like you don't like that.
I will
as the
say
Jigsaw voice?
the only thing I will defend on the voice changing is that it's not supposed to be John Kramer at all. So they
I
wanted
know,
to kind
but
of,
it's stupid.
the
It's
voice
really
itself
bad.
is stupid, but they wanted to change it up to not tie into the Saw.
And that's the thing is that like especially like starting with Jigsaw, you felt you could feel, since it was a little bit divorced.
Yeah.
Jigsaw and then Spiral, they were like divorced from the main 7. You kind of felt like they're like, well, we're rebooting it. Like this one's from the book of Saw, so it's going to be different.
What is the book of Saw? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it? It's a book now.
With that, we've never really gotten until maybe Saw 10, which we'll talk about, an actual like not a reboot, but like a continuation that has actually worked when divorced from the main 7. So in Spiral, yeah, it swung and it missed. Austin.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was mixed on it when it came out, and then where it really hit me was on the rewatches. And man, this movie just did not work on rewatches like some of the other earlier Saw movies do, where I can just pop them on and watch them. I don't think there's enough to get invested in. The storylines are just bland as shit, like you said, just bland, police corruption story, and big surprise, everybody is corrupt. Like, oh, that's really surprising. And if you want to see something like that, watch LA Confidential or Serpico, something like that. I don't find the killer reveal satisfying at all. That dude just, I didn't care about him in the first place. I kind of wish he just stayed dead and was somebody else. It's just the whole thing just feels like let's just do a Saw movie, but let's not really do a Saw movie, but let's again, these spin-off things where we're trying to make it in the same universe, but we don't even want to barely mention Jigsaw's name. Like, we don't want to do anything, have any kind of direct connections. It's just this sort of knockoff thing. Like, I don't know. I'm just not into it, especially on rewatches. So, there's nothing wrong with like performance-wise or whatever. It's fine, all that. Just, I don't even think the traps are that interesting in this movie. So, just the whole thing just kind of washes over me every time I rewatch it.
Yeah, for sure. Dylan.
Yeah, I haven't talked about this yet in my ranking, but it is my number 8, so we were going to get to it next.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, for all the reasons you guys have said, that's why I don't like it. But I think you guys have been a little too generous to Chris Rock, who I think is awful in this. And I like Chris Rock. Like, I'm a Chris Rock fan, so I'm not trying to diss him as a performer, but like this one, I think he tried so hard to show that he had dramatic chops, that he tries to lean so heavily into that, but they somehow have a lot of these forced jokes, like the Forrest Gump rant, like a lot of these other things that like, then he's so afraid of being funny because he wants to be taken seriously that those lines aren't funny anymore because he's not trying to be funny. So I'd more rather him just like actually commit to being funny in those lines and like actually make some funny dialogue, but then also have dramatic moments rather than I'm going to be so serious that like, I don't even want to like, go for good jokes. I want to like say these cheap lines. I don't know. I just think his performance really brings it down for me because also like it is his passion project. So you can tell that like it's a Chris Rock vehicle and like I don't know. I feel like the police story and the traps, like it just doesn't always cohere with me. To where this is my number 8. I still think it's a little bit more memorable than the one I have below it. And I think Saw 3D is just a worse film in its construction than this one. Like I think it's still competently made, at least from a cinematography standpoint. Like I don't think it's bad, but again, like kind of some of the charm of Saw is how kind of off the rails it is in its editing and stuff. To where this one feels almost too tame. So those are all the reasons I have it low.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Hunter started with this one, right? Spiral.
No, because
Well,
I
Hunter,
got cut off.
Go ahead with Spiral.
Oh, talking about Spiral? Yeah, I've already talked about it.
Oh,
That
yeah,
wasn't
you did.
my number 9 though. I thought you were talking about the order.
No
Sorry.
worries. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about Spiral. Now let's get on to our number 8s, correct?
Mhm.
James,
Yes.
what is your number 8?
Number 8, I had Jigsaw.
My number 8. Wait, I don't have 10 on here. What the hell is wrong with my list here? Hold on. I don't have Saw 6 ranked. That's okay. Spiral is my 9.
Yep.
I said 9. Okay. So Jigsaw is also my number 8 then. Austin, number 8.
My number 8 was Saw: The Final Chapter.
Okay. Dylan.
My 8 was Spiral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hunter.
My 8 is Saw 6.
Okay.
Oh, fuck that.
Oh, for 3.
Yeah, I'm joining you on the punt.
Punt that. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Nice.
Mhm.
All right. So now we'll go to 7s. I think. My number 7 is.
Well, no, because two people
Yeah,
said
two
Jigsaw,
people
right?
said Jigsaw, right?
Yeah, we go ahead and talk about Jigsaw.
Yeah, 3 people have said Jigsaw. Hunter and I have not mentioned it yet, but it's not in our top 3, so we can talk
Yeah.
about it.
Mhm.
Sounds good. All right. Austin, do you want to start with Jigsaw?
Yeah, Jigsaw's my number 10. I hate this movie. I hate everything about this movie's existence. I hate everything about the look of this movie, the feel of this movie, the fan filmness of this movie. I hate what it does to the continuity of this movie, shoving in yet another unnecessary apprentice into the movie. Hey, quick, name who the apprentice is in this movie.
Logan.
There you go. It took you a minute, didn't it? Yeah, right. And most of you guys couldn't remember. Oh yeah, that's how memorable he is and how much he matters. We didn't need another one. It just completely muddies up the water once again when you think it's going to be a movie set in the future and a spinoff, and then, hey, surprise! It's like set back again in 04 or something, but we've got flat screens everywhere, which makes no sense technology-wise, and we can't even stick to the premise, and we have traps that look nothing like any other Saw traps or don't feel anything like Saw traps, and this literally feels like one of those like Friday the 13th fan films. I hate everything about this movie. Screw this movie. I wish it didn't exist. So if I could erase Jigsaw from Resistance, I would erase it. So
Nice.
I hate this movie.
Dylan.
So Austin does not like Jigsaw.
No, I don't like Jigsaw.
To put it in some context, I saw my first Saw film last month and saw my last Saw film last month. So like that shows how new of a fan I am. So I'm in a different perspective where like I didn't look at this as like, oh, that doesn't feel like Saw too much because like I had only a few weeks to go on. So this is a little higher for me. It's my number 5, which may be a little, crazy, but the reason I think is because I really don't love the editing style of Saw all the time. It's a little too manic to where this one was like at least refreshing at the point I watched it in the continuity to where I was like, oh, this is a little tamer. This feels like kind of a little bit more relaxed on my brain and eyes, but I definitely get a lot of what Austin's saying because it doesn't feel like a Saw film in that way. The one thing I think it has over Spiral for me, because both of those don't feel stylistically like a Saw film, but I think at least Jigsaw has Tobin Bell there, and I think that adds a lot, whereas like Spiral doesn't. And I think Tobin Bell is a big key as to why some of these films work better than others. And I think there's a little bit of charm into seeing like the first trap. Like it was kind of a fun movie for me because of that, but I can definitely see in the context of like knowing the Saw movies very well and like seeing how different of an outlier it is and like a lot of the logic not adding up. I definitely think on rewatch I won't like this as much because I think there are also very forgettable aspects to it as well. So it's right there in the middle for me, whereas there are ones I like less, but also ones I like a lot more. So
all right, Hunter, Jigsaw.
Okay, so Jigsaw. Is there an echo?
Not for us.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Whoa!
Whoa,
Just
another
came
two
out of
of them.
nowhere. What
Whoa,
happened?
another double.
You good
Hey,
now?
told himself while he was off screen.
Hunter, can you hear me?
I want to play a game. It's called how Hunter's internet's gonna hold up all night.
That was weird.
Yeah.
I hear you well now.
All right, so
You're good?
Jigsaw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
I'm
you go.
good. So Jigsaw, I have it number 6 on my list, and the reason I have it at number 6 is because I like how they took the Saw formula and updated it. There are some really cool Saw traps. I hate that they added another apprentice, like this secret apprentice, but overall, I don't mind Logan as a character. I like kind of this. Of course, Jigsaw would want to work with someone who is in the medical field who can swap out bodies. That makes sense to me. Overall,
Hoffman
though,
could do that. He's a cop. He has access to a morgue. He can do that. Not necessary. Don't need it.
Kind of, but he's someone who works with bodies who can really get down there and change the dental work and things like that around. It wouldn't make sense. I hate that they added another princess that we didn't know about, but they've done this for 3 movies as well, so it doesn't really bother me as much as it does other people. I like some of the actors in this movie as well, so that kind of helps. I like the one big long saw trap feel at the end of it, but overall it's not a great movie. It's just one that I can enjoy personally.
Nice. Austin already talked about it. Dylan and Hunter. So James. Jigsaw.
Yeah, so I had this one at 8. I mean, it wasn't that great of a movie. I feel like the only real trap that had like the Saw type feel to it, where he like puts people into situations based on like the irony of like why they were in trouble to begin with, was the guy on the motorcycle, because he's like, you sold the motorcycle that killed like my nephew or some shit like that. So
Yeah.
like that part was a little bit Saw reminiscent. I tried not to like get too hard, like think too much into like the nostalgia factor, because like the two EMTs had like the Saw paraphernalia, like the reverse bear traps, some like the other like props in her, I forget it was her house or the warehouse, some shit like that. Like it brought that back enough, but I wasn't sold on it to like really think it made it that much of a better movie. It's just not that great. It's number 8. I don't like it that much.
Yeah, I also had this at number 8. No, I agree. I think this is like the first instance of them trying to bring it back after the core 7, and yeah, I don't really feel like it worked all that much. Like it's kind of cool that they tied it into like the whole movie. You're like thinking like it's all present, and then you're like, oh wait, a lot of this is in the past with Jigsaw, but he's still dead, and some of this is in the future. And
You know what movie does that way better? Final Destination 5.
Yeah,
Way,
Yeah.
way better.
We will rank the Final Destination movies. I agree with you, Austin, 100% there. But yeah, it tries to do that, and I think it does it okay. But it's not, really that great. Like I feel like it's also kind of too polished in a way, whereas like Saw 7 kind of felt like it was cheaply made. This one felt like it was like so polished that it was like, well, this doesn't feel like it's a part of the Saw franchise. So I'm glad that they kind of removed some of the choppy editing that I also hate. From like, I feel like the Saw franchise could be so much better if they just had not done that at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I disagree wholeheartedly. That's what I love about these movies. I love that shit.
I hate that so much. So
yeah.
So I think you can love this franchise a little bit more if you do love that. That's for sure. But yeah, I think Jigsaw kind of removing that didn't just make it like better. It just made it kind of feel divorced from the franchise a little too much. And yeah, none of the characters or none of the traps were really felt that interesting. It just felt like another Saw, but like not really even Saw. I didn't even really feel like Saw that much. So yeah, I don't really like this one that much. I put it at 8. Yep. So we can move on to our 7s. I think we're at right now, right?
Yep.
My number 7 is Saw 4. Dylan.
My number 7 is Saw 5.
Okay. Hunter.
My number 7 is Spiral.
Okay. Austin.
My number 7 is Saw 5.
James.
I had Saw 7 at 7.
All right. So, Dylan, you're keeping the tabs. Is there
Yeah.
anything you talk about?
We have had 3 mentions of Saw 5 from James, myself, and Austin, so we can talk about that now.
Okay. We're at number 7s. I'm gonna actually punt Saw 5.
Oh, it's top
A little bit. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'll put it at top 3.
You and Malcolm.
Yeah. And then yeah. So what is there anything else we can talk about? We're doing 6.
Nope.
No.
All right. Let's go with our 6s. Dylan. 6.
My 6 is Saw 3, which I already know is punted.
Punt that.
Okay. Hunter. 6.
My number 6 is Jigsaw.
Austin.
My number 6 is the original Saw.
Wow.
Punt.
Okay.
Yeah, punt that
Yeah,
one.
definitely a punt there. James.
I had Saw 4 at 6.
Okay. And then for my 6, I have Saw 2.
Punt
Punt.
And punt that one.
Okay.
that.
All right.
We
What-
can talk about Saw 4 now
Let's
because
do it.
Chad, you had it at your 7, and I had it at my 9, and James just revealed it at his 6.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Do you want to start with that, Dylan?
Sure. Yeah, I put this in 9 because I feel like this is where, like, if you really like the choppy editing and way over, over plotted, kind of twisty turny stuff, then it might be for you. But for me, it was almost too excessive to the point where I was just like, at the end, I was like, what is going on? This is one of the only films where I was like truly left a little bit burnt out in my brain just because there was almost too much going on to where it became almost a little too much of a mess for me. There's really not much else to say. I kind of blur a lot of like the 3 to 5 range in my head, and I kind of have to remember exactly what distinguishes each one because it's kind of that post, like kind of the end of Jigsaw into the apprenticeship kind of thing, and I don't love this one. It's just too much for me. Whereas other films maybe are not enough of that. I think this is a little too much of it to where I like a happy medium, and this one is, I think, a little too much on the other end.
Sounds good. Hunter, Saw 4.
So Saw 4, I actually have at my number 4 on the list. So it's pretty high up there. I like the fact that it's coming off of John Kramer's death, and you get to find out who his next apprentice is. So, that's the introduction of Hoffman. You bring back Eric Matthews. You bring in Riggs, like all of these other characters. I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the one with the Eric Matthews' death with the ice crusher, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love
Ice
that.
Box, yeah.
That whole scene at the end, that whole death scene is amazing. I just feel like this is a pure Saw movie where, like, it's starting to get a new gear going, but we're not in the full, like, going off the rails with the rest of the franchise. So yeah, I have it at my number 4.
All right, Austin.
Yeah, I have Saw 4 at number 5, and all of my top 5 are movies I really dig. It's just a matter of like just trying to rank them, based on which ones I just get the most thrill out of or whatnot. But yeah, I like a lot of these early like Saw like sequels and whatnot. It's just my bag, especially if you marathon these things, man. It just works back to back, man. You watch this like right after Saw 3 and it works, and especially the way it ties into Saw 3 and like the breakneck pace it has. I like that stuff. I like a really tight like 90-minute movie where we're just moving, we're hauling ass, we're throwing information out there, and it's like keep the fuck up, man. Like let's go. Like we're gonna throw all at you, and you better just pay attention. But it feels like it's a thing where it's made for like those super fans that really do keep up with the continuity and really do remember all the characters from the previous ones. Like we're focusing on a character we introduced in Saw 2 with Rick. Like we're following up on these characters. We're following up with Matthews. We're following up with Hoffman, who we've seen around, in the previous movie. Like it's just I think it works. And yeah, I like all that transitional stuff, all the cuts. There's actually some good filmmaking if you look at the behind the scenes. There's stuff where like they built sets right next to each other where they like break through a wall and it goes to like a cut to
I
the
love
PlayStation
that.
instead, and it's actually
the window.
it's a real transition. Like they transition one set to another. It's not a cut. It was an actual like. There's really cool filmmaking going on if you catch it. Like there's really really cool stuff. And I think Darren Lynn Bousman was just hitting a stride with the series. With these couple of movies that he did here in the middle. So I dig it.
Yeah. Just to piggyback off what Austin said before we get to James. I actually do think the filmmaking is really cool, especially because they generally make these on very low budgets, like
very low
dollars, and then they make so much money from that, which I think is actually very impressive. Even though I don't like the shaky jump style or whatever, like there is some good filmmaking in this. But to piggyback off what you said about specifically these movies feel like they flow, I think that's a strength and also kind of a weakness because they don't always feel like one film. They always just feel like kind of like a transition from something else before. Whereas I think this could have been maybe done better. Instead of just having a series of films, maybe this could have been like a mini series, like shorten each film up into an episode of television and then just give us that mini series, like a Fall of the House of Usher or something like that, where it's like each little part is a segment of something else. Like Hoffman is now becoming the thing, and so I think maybe it could have worked better as that, but we didn't get that. We got the movies. James, what do you feel about Saw 4?
Yeah, so I had this one at 6. It's pretty much where I felt like the breaking point for the series kind of went. Like I definitely liked how they continued it. I think just also this came out like 2007, something like that. So it was like peak, like end of like high school ish. So like the cat was out of the bag for the other three. And as far as like what it contained, it was just for me, like I don't know if it was just too much or like as nice as these are as they're short, like it does kind of throw a lot at you all at once, which might make it hard to kind of keep up with some of the plot, with some of the continuity. I kind of liked how it introduced like the two, the detectives trying to figure out who's, carrying this on because he gets straight up autopsy in the beginning and the little micro cassette comes out of him. So it's interesting that they carried the story that way, but I feel like it's where I felt the series was starting to kind of like teeter off a little bit. I thought it was going to be a little bit much at that point.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of the same opinion where I like how these do flow. If you're watching them, in succession and marathoning them. And so this is why it is a lot. Looking at my ranking, I'm like, it's very hard for me to rank some of these. Like a lot of them, I like a lot more than others, but this one I do think is a really good like transition between like 3 and 4. You get that kind of new helper, I guess, or like in the next Jigsaw with Hoffman. I don't love that character all that much, and I also felt like he and the other detective that was in there, they look very similar, those two actors. Whereas like when I remember Carrie and I were watching Saw 4 one time, we were so confused. And they were like, wait, that's two separate people. Holy shit. Okay.
Strom and Hoffman are two separate characters.
The entire movie and be like, okay, that's a bad one. That's a good one. This one dies. Doesn't he die? Does he die at the end of this with the walls collapsing?
That's 5. Saw 5.
That's 5.
Okay. That is a really crazy cool thing. But yeah, it's the way it flows. I had this at 7 just because like when I'm nitpicking and stuff like that to try to figure out which ones I like more. There's certain things I like about the other ones a little bit more. Because I'm trying to think about this one is the one that follows the one detective through where he has the you had that one guy who was like
Riggs is trying to be the accomplice.
One guy who was like sexually assaulting people and his limbs ripped off or whatever.
That's a cool room scene though.
And then you got I don't like really any of that stuff. I don't really like the ice thing with
Eric Matthews,
Donnie Wahlberg.
Donnie Wahlberg.
If you want some good Donnie Wahlberg, watch The Sixth Sense, which Dylan and I will be talking about coming soon. I don't know. I don't really like. I like this one, but I just put it a little bit lower. Everyone talked about this one.
Dylan.
Okay.
Dylan talked about it.
I started with it, but
okay, that's right. I got you.
All right. So now we're at what are we doing now? 5s?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So Dylan 5.
My 5 I already said earlier was Jigsaw.
Okay. Hunter.
My 5 is Saw 5.
Okay. Austin.
My 5 was Saw 4.
And mine, or James, 5.
Mine is Saw 3.
That's also mine is Saw 3 as well.
Fuck that.
Okay. Dylan, can we talk about anything?
Saw 5 and Saw 3 have both been punted because Saw 3 is in your top 5
Sounds
and
good.
Saw 3 is in Austin's top 5. Otherwise, they've been talked about already.
All right, Hunter, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Saw 4.
Okay, Austin.
Saw X.
Punt.
Okay, yeah,
Punt.
that's a punt too. James.
And Saw 6 is 4.
My number 4 is
Punt.
also Saw 6.
Punt that.
Punt.
Okay,
Big
Dylan,
time. Mhm.
Dylan, what's your 4?
My 4 is Saw 2, which is also being punted.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we're up at the 3s almost. So, can we talk about anything, or is everything? Wait for it.
Everything is still wait for it because
Let's go through our 3s, and we'll be able to talk about it from there.
Yeah.
Austin, what's your 3?
My number 3 is Saw 2.
Okay, James.
And Saw 10.
Okay, my number 3 is Saw 5. Dylan
my number 3 is Saw 6.
and Hunter.
My number 3 is the original Saw.
Okay, so what can we talk about, Dylan?
Everyone has now said Saw 5. You were the highest on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll start real quick with Saw 5. The only reason my reasoning for liking this one a lot more is not that big, but it's I'm a huge Buffy fan and I love Julie Benz. She's in this.
Yeah.
She plays Darla in Buffy, so it's fun. Sometimes when you see an actress or actor you like in a movie, it makes you put it up a little bit more. And I was thinking about this, and the other reason that I really like this is because Saw for me is best when it's a game, and some of them when they're just like they're trying so hard to introduce a new companion to Jigsaw or whatever. Like I feel like they kind of get away sometimes from the game aspect. I think Saw 5 does the game stuff really well, and I really like how you're following them throughout all the stuff, and then at the very end, the two that are left are like, wait a second, why are there 6 holes in this?
Yeah, 5 holes in the thing.
We were supposed to work together.
I love that twist because you don't see it coming.
Yeah, and then it's like everyone would have survived, but would have just been hurt a little bit. But now people actually have to die in horrific ways because the humanity in them was actually the thing that did them in, because you see the dark side of humanity of that they're going to be selfish probably and try to survive on their own, and dog eat dog, every man for himself. Whereas if they did the other side of the humanity where it's like, we can try to save everyone, let's think, like, so let's all pull together and think about this, maybe we can actually everyone be saved. So and that's one of the big things about Saw is that it's always rule based, and it's like no one pays attention to the rules, and then we end up where we end up. But yeah, I think Saw 5 does that really well. I've always liked that, and every single time I rewatch it I go, oh yeah, that's right, I love that kind of twist at the end, and I love Julie Benz. So there you go. That's why I have mine in my top 3. Dylan, what do you think about Saw 5?
I think no, never mind. James had a lower
Guys,
than me, but
I have to head out. Something came up, but I apologize.
Can you
Hunter,
give us
rattle off your ranking?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, all right. So my number 3 was the original Saw. My number 2 is Saw X, and my number 1 is Saw 2.
No worries. Thank you, Hunter. And
sorry about that, guys.
Have fun at work, buddy.
All right, guys. Later.
See you.
Yeah. I have Saw 5 at 7, only because I think Saw 4 was so off the rails, where this one I think wasn't enough. It almost felt a little too tame and boring to where I was waiting for it to pick up a little bit more. But I actually think the reason it's above Spiral, 4, and 3D for me is the ending. I think it's a really cool ending. I love the kind of final moments in that movie. So that's why I have it a little higher, but it's still not in my top tier for Saw.
Definitely. Austin.
I'm almost the exact same as Dylan. Yeah, I had Saw 5 at number 7 just because I think it's watchable when I'm doing this marathon, that I do. When a new one's coming out, like I'll do it and I'll watch it and it's fine enough, like it putters along. I just don't think it has the breakneck pacing of some of the other ones. I think it just kind of it meanders a little bit. I'm not as into Strom post tracheotomy. Although that scene is awesome at the beginning, like when he gives himself the tracheotomy, that's a great scene. But that's kind of like the peak of the movie for me until the end, and then like there's nothing else quite as interesting. I don't really have anything to latch onto with the main characters in the main game. It's a random weird plot that I still don't understand about some arson and property deals, and I'm just like in one ear out the other. Like it just doesn't. It's very vague, and they don't really do much with it. You kill off the most interesting and charismatic character in that game in the second one, the British guy, the survival of the fittest guy. He's like the most charismatic dude, and they bump him off like in the second one. So after that, I just kind of check out, even with Julie Benz. So I'm just not as into it, and I'm just kind of waiting for like the ending, just kind of waiting for the ending, and you get there and it's okay. Yeah, the stuff with the saws is pretty gnarly at the end, but I do like the end stuff with Hoffman and Strom where he gets squashed in the wall. Like that stuff is pretty cool because we see so many movies where they escape the wall squashing, and this one we actually see somebody get squashed and how brutal that is, like when his arm breaks and his leg breaks, and then you just see the hand up, and that like it is a pretty great like finale for the actual ending. So that's why I have it above a couple of the other movies. But to me, it's just like it's the least of those core like sequels, like 1 through 6 kind of a thing for me. So that's all it is.
Nice, and it is cool when he doesn't get in the box, and then Hoffman does get in the box, and then you're like, "That's what you should have done, is get in the box." Austin, real quick though, what do you know what time it is?
It is 8:56.
I thought it was turbo time.
Well, there's a story behind that because the Battleground match that got postponed. I might be talking about Jingle All the Way. So, and I forgot to change my shirt again. I did 3 changes. I changed it to that for that, and I forgot to throw a horror shirt on.
I was like, Chad, are you not on your laptop right now? Okay, look at the time.
It was just for the joke.
Whatever.
Saw 5.
I had Saw 5 at number 9. I just plain did not like this one. I know I was talking about number 4 being like the teetering point for where the sequels just kind of they trail off a little too far. Like, I guess I didn't mind that there's a whole like, copycat killer deal going on, like who's trying to like, place the blame on who, or who's, trying to set who up for failure. But like, I think it got a little bit away from me, at least. I didn't really like the fact that they had to like work together the whole time. That's not like necessarily the point of Saw, like, and it maybe was more obvious to me when I was watching it, but there was enough murder shit for them to just harm a little bit of themselves. Like there was enough caves to hide in for the nail bomb or whatever. There was enough saws at the end. He was like, oh, we only give like 2 pints of blood, or a pint of blood or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think I may have caught that a little too early. So this one, I just did not like this movie at all. It's number 9.
No worries. All right. So are we on to 2s or something else?
Yeah, we got to do our 2s. Yep.
All right. My 2 is the original Saw. Dylan.
My 2 is also the original Saw.
All right. Austin.
My number 2 is Saw 3.
James.
I saw 2.
All right.
So we can talk about Saw 2, and Saw 3 because those have all been covered now.
Let's go ahead and just work back.
Oh, no, sorry, not the original Saw. James still hasn't talked about it. Sorry.
Let's go ahead and work backwards since that seems like what we've been doing. Let's talk about Saw 3 and then Saw 2. Dylan, you want to talk about Saw 3?
Sure. Yeah, this is right in the middle for me. This is number 6. I actually really like how big it goes. Like, it's very Shakespearean is the word that you see in a lot of reviews for this thing. And this is also like the last one with like Tobin Bell as Jigsaw in the continuity before we get into like flashbacks and corpse forwards, not flash forwards because he doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, like I think that's kind of where the charm comes from. I just everything with Tobin Bell kind of like takes those top few slots, except for one, which we'll talk about. But I really do think there are some good moments in this thing, but I just think other Saw films have more memorable moments in general. So I really don't know why else I didn't put it higher. That's just where it fell for me. I like it though. It's good.
No worries. Austin, Saw 3.
Yeah, Saw 3 is my number 2. Is my second favorite. I just think there's a lot of meat on this bones in this one to kind of dig into with this movie. We get a lot of Tobin Bell Jigsaw. He's in the bed the whole time, but we get a lot of his back and forth, and then a lot of the dynamic of his relationship with Amanda. You get some nice setup. With the whole game, the central game of Jeff. And him losing the kid in the car accident and whatnot, getting hit. So you get some really good like moral conundrums, and I kind of like these movies where it's somebody else sort of in charge of somebody else's fate in a game. Like I think that's always interesting and a little more interesting than that person themselves being in a trap, maybe having to escape and whatnot. And there's a little bit of that in the movie, but just these choices he has to make to, burn his kids' toys and let go, or, save this person who actually did the hitting and whatnot. I think it has the gnarliest trap in the whole series. The rack is just the most brutal goddamn, I think, trap in the entire series. Like, screw the needle pit, dude. The rack is worse. The rack is way, way worse. Just because of how prolonged it is, man. Like, that thing is brutal. And yeah, the brain surgery is gnarly. And yeah, the way everything comes together just kind of perfectly with the shot here, and then Lynn get her head blown off here, and then him, cutting up Jigsaw with the saw. Like, everything just on the end, just boom, 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 one after another. And it's a really, really great finale. Yeah, I think this one has a good pace to it, and just a lot of meat to really dig into with the characters and whatnot. So, yeah, this is one I go back to a lot.
Absolutely. Is the rack is the one where it like twists his limbs and head?
Oh yeah, twists and limbs and head. Oh my god, it's brutal.
That thing is, yeah, I agree with you. It's
brutal.
This trap, just because of the way it does it so slowly, twisting his head.
Can you imagine the dread being in there and it's just slowly breaking one, and that one hurts, but oh my god, now we're starting another one, and now we're starting another one, and another. It's the worst. It's the worst. Right. That one's the worst. The other ones are like, it's a quick thing or something, 60 seconds, whatever, or you got to cut something up, blah, blah, blah. But like that one's just like prolonged, like just brutality. And it makes me wince every single time every one of them breaks. It's the worst.
Definitely. Yeah. James, Saw 3.
I had this one at number 5. I do like Saw 3. I feel like my top 5 are the ones that are all like pretty good. It's just which one I liked more for whatever reasons. I think it was still pretty much like the height of Saw when they were getting released for like being a high school. It was like the cool, like, bloody slasher type film. So I like this one a lot. The story was pretty good. I did like how it carried. Like, I do like how it developed. Like, he's on the bed the whole time, but I do like how he develops that story. I think overall it's really good. I like the traps. The gore is pretty good, but there's a few that I just liked a little more.
No worries. I actually made a swap, Dylan. I don't know if you could like change this up.
I can choose it. I just finished writing down the complete ranking now that I have everyone's math, but I can do it.
Would it be hard?
No. I was being cheeky. You can do it. It's fine.
Okay. I swapped my 4 and my 5. So I have Saw 3.
So Saw 6 is now 5, and Saw 3 is now 4. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, perfect.
So I got to add a point to Saw 6 and take away one from Saw 3.
There you go. Thank you. So Saw 3, I do remember because like it's interesting. I haven't always been like a huge horror fan, but like this was one of the first like horror series that I started to go to the theater to see, just because like the scares were a little bit different. Like I hated jump scares a lot then. I can tolerate them now, and there's not a lot in the Saw movies. There's just when the pig mask people jump up and take someone. That's it. And I can kind of like generally anticipate that stuff. But the traps and stuff, I could have dealt with. So I remember going to see the first 3 because it was like each year had one around Halloween. It was really cool. And I saw this one in there, Saw 3, and I really liked it then. And I really like it now. Watching through it, I'm like, I like just the whole setup where she's got the collar on. She's doing the surgery, which is still very, very hard to watch.
See, my thing is like I could take horror gore all day, like whatever. Like surgery gore for me is like the worst. Like when she's like drilling into his skull, I'm just like, oh god, no, that's worse than any of the horror gore in any of the movies.
At one part, I had to actually mute it because of the drill sound.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, it is very scary movie in a lot of ways. Yeah, I also like the guy going through, and you get to see like, because I like to have discussions with people sometimes about like the whole death penalty, and what do the victims of a crime deserve? Do they deserve the say in what happens to someone who did a crime to make them a victim, or does that person deserve a second chance, stuff like that? So then we get here is the people who were involved. One was only like a witness and didn't say anything or something like that. So you can go with the severity of their crimes. Even like the kid who is in the rack who supposedly caused the actual accident. You can sit there and go, well, that kid seems like he is sorry and was crying.
Well, even in the pictures, he's crying immediately after. It's not like he's going, whatever. Or if it was a hit and run, that'd be a different thing. Like if it was like a hit and run scenario or something, that'd be different. But yeah, it's like he stops.
And he was like a kid and stuff like that. So, you can actually sit there and have some of these moral discussions, with people after watching the movie and just go, well, that kid, I don't think deserved it. But it's interesting to see someone have to go through all these scenarios and see who they save and, how hard he tries to save certain people and things like that. Because he's at some point, he does seem to go like, all right, well, I'm going to try to actually, but, you can like discuss with yourself, like, did this person deserve it? And, that trap was really crazy with the rack and stuff like that. But yeah, ultimately, I like when he shows up and then you realize the relationship between him and the doctor. And, a lot of that stuff just really works. And then you finally get Jigsaw's death, which is, a really, really cool part. And then immediately, clicks the next, like, all right, this is what happens. Click, dying, kind of a deal. And it's really cool. I love the needle drop every single time when the next chapter, before the next chapter, have the cool needle drop. So I like Saw 3 a lot. It definitely was going to be on my top 5, but I decided to put it at 4. Dylan, did you talk about this one already?
I did. So we can transition into Saw 2 now, because that was Hunter's number 1, but we all had it either 2 or lower.
Sounds good. Austin, you want to start?
Saw 2 is my number 3, so it's right behind there. To me, like, Saw 2 is where we really kicked off, and to me, and I'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about the original Saw movie, but I think we really, like, started to find the formula here that I like with Saw movies, and it's like, let's bounce back and forth between a couple of stories, let's keep the pace moving, we really dig into the Jigsaw character here and put Tobin Bell, like, which we really didn't know anything about that actual character, because I mean he just gets up and we don't know anything about him other than the tapes from the first movie, and it's like this one we actually get to like meet the guy and like let's talk to him a little bit and hear some more of his like actual backstory with the cancer and all that, and I dig the back and forth between him and Donnie. There's a sense of urgency there. I think the twists are fantastic in this one, with the kid being in the safe is great, the video not being live, all that stuff is really, really good that I legit like didn't see coming when I watched it originally. Again, you get kind of a escape room vibe with this one, like all the different rooms with the different types of traps, and this was for this person and instructions on this one, and it just has like kind of a fun house feel to it as well, and we're bouncing back and forth, and I think the characters are actually like somewhat interesting. You get some recognizable character actors kind of thrown throughout this one. You get some big personalities with Frankie G and the guy from Speed, and like you got a couple of people who you like recognize, and you're like, okay, I recognize it. The girl from Seventh Heaven is like in there, just guys. You get some people you recognize them, which is always fun. And we get a little bit more of Amanda, like going through the thing again. So it's got a lot of things. I think I just Saw 3 has a little bit more of those like moral conundrums I think about a little bit more. But like this one is still really, really good, and it's in my top 3.
I actually just rewatched Child's Play, and the whole time I kept going Seventh Heaven. I've done that too. James, Saw 2.
Yeah, I like this one a whole lot. It was my number 2. I think it was a really, really legit sequel to the first one. I mean, it kept the story going. It kept it really interesting. I love the whole like they're all trapped in the whole house bit. I like how it did switch back to the stories. Pretty much everything that like Pez already said is why I like this one so much. I just think I liked it a little more than he did. I put it number 2. It's a fantastic sequel.
Yeah. Again, my top 5 is all like little things that separate like the rankings. Like I like my top 5 like a lot. Like pretty much all those movies a whole lot. So yeah.
I actually agree, and I think it's my 2 through 6 are the ones that I think are a little bit interchangeable here and there.
My number 1 is my number 1, like with a bullet, but I'll talk about it in a little bit. Yeah.
Actually, same. I think my number 1 is the legit, like, good one out of all of them that I think everyone should be able to love. But anyway, we'll get there. Saw 2. Yeah, I think Saw 2 is great. I do sometimes think it's a little bit overrated. I think a lot of people put this like close to their 1, as we're seeing here a little bit, which is great. But, for me, I think I liked it more when I first saw it in the theater, and I was like, this is really cool. And then now that I've seen a lot more movies, I feel like, it just, I don't know. I don't know why I don't like this one as much. I think I like, certain devices and characters a lot more. I don't think I like many of the characters in Saw 2, like the big macho guy and the Seventh Heaven girl, and just like all these characters I just don't really like all that much. Although we do have Crash in here without the boys, and I do think the kind of twist with the safe and stuff is kind of cool, but I also don't like Donnie Wahlberg all that much in these movies. I think that's why I ranked Saw 4 a little bit lower as well. And I feel like they just kind of like waste that character a little bit too. So it kind of brings Saw 2 down for me a little bit. But ultimately, I do like this movie quite a bit as well. And that's why I say like 2 through 6, or because this is my number 6, is a little bit interchangeable. So, but I do think I did see this in the theater, and I liked it quite a bit then. I do like it still now. Dylan, Saw 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of splitting the difference with everyone. I had it number 4, right outside my top 3. I agree with the reasons everyone loves it. I think it's great. I also love Tobin Bell just being front and center the whole time. There's really only one other film where he is like front and center the whole time. Partially Saw 3 as well, but like I really love just his performances. So everything with him centered around him is going to rank a little higher for me. But I'm also with Chad where I just really don't like Donnie Wahlberg in it. So I think that's kind of what brings it down. But it is a really good follow-up. And I think if I were to rewatch this, I think I'd honestly put this above the original Saw, because watching through them for the first time recently, Saw, not knowing how these twists fall out and all the twists and the nature of these movies, the first Saw really had a huge impact on me. But I think rewatching it, I think this one's just going to be a better overall watch, because now knowing how the franchise goes and knowing Tobin Bell's character and his arc and everything, and Amanda especially, that whole relationship, I think this one is going to probably be a little bit more rewatchable for me. But on this first watch, this ranked a little bit below the original, but still right outside the top 3, because I think it's really good.
Hell yeah. All right. And we can't talk about what
all our number 1s. We still have to say those were all the ones that weren't.
Let's do our
that was
number
Hunter's
1,
number 1 though.
and then we'll talk about the 3 we haven't discussed yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My number 1 is Saw X. Dylan.
Yeah, my number 1, what Bostonians call the things under their shoes, socks, otherwise known as Saw X.
Austin.
Interesting. I'll talk about why it's not higher for me. My number 1 is Saw 6.
Wow, nice. James.
I had Saw 1. Had to do the cliche thing.
Hey, you didn't do it during the Scream, so now you do it.
That's true.
That works.
Fair enough.
Cool. All right, Dylan. So, what's
2 of us had Saw X as our number 1. One of us had Saw 6, and one of us had Saw 6. I think has been ranked the lowest of everyone's, because Hunter had it all the way down at 8. So maybe we start with that.
Let Austin champion Saw 6, and then we'll do Saw, and then we'll do Saw X.
Saw 6 is the most batshit crazy, entertaining fucking Saw movie that's ever been made, and I will stick to that. I think it's fucking awesome. This movie it takes the whole concept of Saw and says, fuck it, let's just have some fun and go crazy. Let's murder people for no goddamn reason. Let's put stupid insurance people and like people who smoke into traps. Let's put a kid into a trap because he's an introvert because we don't give a fuck. Because we know that Jigsaw is a murderer. He's a serial killer. He serial killers everybody he comes across. And if you're one of those goofy people that's like, no, he doesn't actually kill people. Screw you. You're just wrong. He's a serial killer and he puts people into traps for them to die. They are going to die. And he does that multiple times over and over and over again. You put two people in a trap where only one's supposed to survive, you killed the other person. That's murder. That doesn't hold up in court that you didn't physically murder them. So let's get that out of the way. So now that we've embraced the zaniness that is Saw and the whole series, we just go full bonkers with it. And it's Kevin Grader who did Saw X. A lot of you guys, who did Saw X recently, and he started with this one. He was an editor for all these, so he knows this series very well. And he got the reins, and he's like, let's just go balls to the wall. So the opening has people cutting off their flesh and cutting off their arms and doing all that, and then it's like this silly, thing about him, taking out people because they denied his health insurance, and let's put your health code, or whatever, your formula to the test in practical terms. So literally, I think each test is so much fun of like, hey, here's an older lady with kids, and here's a little dude who's solo. Who are you gonna save? And then it's like, here's just 6 young people on the little carousel. Which two of you are gonna save? But it's so much fun. That carousel bit is so much fun. The part where he's holding the levers so the chick can go through all the things, and then it turns out she needs to kill him to get the key. That's fucking awesome and fun. And then you got this whole mystery about the mom and the daughter who are like, in the thing with the little switch, and you don't know like what that is. And the last 10 minutes of this movie is fucking crazy. And I'm sorry, I'm dropping F-bombs, but it's fucking crazy because the final moments of this movie, you not only have the actual guy makes it through all the thing, the insurance dude, and then the kid decides to kill him after the mom wants to show mercy. Fuck you, you killed my father, bonk. And melts him with the acid. At the same time, Jill gets the upper hand on Hoffman, puts him in a bear trap. You think he's going to die, and he gets out of it. And it's awesome. It's so badass. And that's where I said Hoffman is a badass. He's a Terminator, and I'm down with Hoffman for whatever they do. Because, man, he did, boom, boom, let's smash my hand, stick my thing in the thing, rip my face apart to get out of this thing. It has the best finale of any of these movies, and I just think it's the most entertaining. Saw 6 rules, and I will stand on that hilltop and scream it till the end of time. Saw 6 rocks, and this movie, it just kills it. It's great.
Nice. James, Saw 6.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised at how much I liked Saw 6 as well. I mean, especially with like how much I didn't really like, Saw 5, I thought wasn't that great, and Saw 4 like kind of started the whole, teeter off bit. But I actually like Saw 6 a lot. I think the whole insurance adjusters getting their comeuppance even holds up to today, so it was still kind of interesting to watch that too. The carousel with the shotgun was pretty cool. I like that bit. When he out breathes the one guy with their ribs getting crushed was kind of interesting too. I like that little bit, but I like this a lot. It was very surprising to me. I did, goof on the ending. I thought that was 7, but it's 6 where he gets the acid needles in his back. That was pretty crazy. I like that part a lot, though. Yeah, it's great. I think I just like the others a little bit more.
No worries. Austin's defense of Saw 6 is one of my favorite things I've ever heard.
Come on, Hoffman's going around with strong, stupid fingers, sticking his fingers all over everything after he murders people with gasoline. Come on, how do you not love this movie? This movie's amazing.
If it helps, we all have it in our top 5s. Hunter's the only one who put it low.
Hunter my God, 8. I want to hear Hunter's.
Hunter put it at 8.
Come on,
but all of us,
I wanted to hear him.
All of us clearly like this movie.
Yes.
Yeah. I do like it for like all the same reasons that Austin was saying. I did think it was wild, the Hoffman, putting his the face through the bars or whatever to make sure that it doesn't rip his jaw, even though it got like a little bit ripped.
Oh, it still got in there because it's locked into his face, so you still got to get it off.
But yeah, a lot of that stuff is really cool. I think for me, like, the only kind of negative is if you watch it from that, like, everything's wild, fuck it, let's just do it, whatever kind of a thing, I think it can be really fun. But since I haven't seen it that many times, I think I saw it in the theater and then I saw it recently for this. But if I watch through this, obviously I bought all the movies. They're behind me. I plan to watch through this series a few more times, much to my wife's chagrin. But she's not on this episode. She's on most of them. She does not like Saw movies. But I do plan to watch through these, and I think Saw 6 has the potential to grow on me a lot more because of everything Austin was saying. But I think for me, I'm sitting there in the back of my head, like I agree that insurance adjusters can be like bad people, I guess, in a sense. But then also, like, they're kind of also just doing their jobs. I think most of those people are.
I know, but that's what's great about this movie is they say, "Fuck it, we're gonna put people into death penalty traps for doing their job." You know what? Fuck it, because this, like, the series. If you thought the series was already off the rails, anyways, then like you would love this movie because it is off the rails. It's completely off the rails, into the woods, into the water, off a cliff. Like it's like, who cares? Like, we're just being silly. Like, the previous movies were putting people in there for being property people or, like lawyers. You know, like the one dude is just John's lawyer doing his job. He's in a couple of traps. Like, who cares? It's whatever. He'll put anybody in a trap.
So I think it just depends on like how you watch it, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say like the carousel trap was holy shit. That one gave me so much anxiety and dread. I was just like, could you imagine just like going through and you're just like, I know I'm probably gonna.
Oh, come on! You don't think it's great when after he saves the second person he's allowed to say, and the one guy knows he's gonna die, so he's like, "Fuck you!" Well, you know what? I hate you, and your system is stupid. In his last like 30 seconds, he's just gonna cuss you out. It's great, man. They're having so much fun with this movie. It's awesome.
Yeah, so I do like a lot of those little traps and stuff like that because I think. Just like following that central character, I think too is really interesting, and the twist at the end with that they're not his family, not his wife and son. It's the people that he killed their husband and father and stuff. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, a very good one. I put that at 5, but I had it at 4, and then I swapped it. A lot of these are interchangeable for me. But now, Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, you all have said it. I love this one. This is my top 3, number 3. And it's a big testament because I really love the ones where Tobin Bell is much more heavily featured, and this one isn't one of those as much as some of the others. Yet I still love it, and I think that goes to show. It's crazy, and that's why I like it. Like Austin said, but I will say it is not just one of my favorite, but my favorite. Traps, which is or set pieces is the merry-go-round. I call it the shotgun roulette is my favorite. So I think that's also why it elevates
with Eddie Winslow.
Yeah, and I mean that the social commentary about the health insurance agency and industry is really interesting, and I think that's something that even in the context of when it was made, probably wasn't as interesting as it is in a post-COVID world, especially. Just the way we watch movies now, I think this is even better than it was in 2009. So I think for all those reasons, Austin said it best. I can't top it. So
yeah, no one can. All right, so now we're going to talk about the first Saw. James, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. Again, this one, I guess sometimes it's just hard to beat a classic. I still think I love this one the most. Even when you rewatch, obviously you know what happens. Like in the theater, it was just such a big reveal. I think I like the concept of like what was made on like barely like $1 million and they made like a whole bunch more. So like to just have some low budget thing like hit like that, nothing hasn't been done in the past. But I think it really captured like I like the horror aspects of it because he had when he's like taking the pictures in the dark room, like is it horror, is it gore, is it a mix? I think it did a really, really good job in that respect of kind of blending that. Again, like the twist at the end, it's so great. I love how like the key slips off him, and that was how he could have saved himself like right off the get-go, but obviously he wasn't supposed to know that. It's a good kind of like puzzle piece type movie. I think this one is just fantastic overall. Probably one of the more like gore franchises that like started off, like for me at least, I didn't really watch all that much horror like before this. Especially nothing as gory as this. So like to me, this was just like something I haven't seen much of before. So I think just the way this one hit is just why I like this one so much. It's just a fantastic movie overall. And for me, pretty short too. It's a great watch. I love it.
Yeah. This one was one of the first horror movies that like I ever really watched. because back when this came out, I think I saw it maybe like a year after it came out or something like that, and I watched it with a girlfriend, and that was probably the only reason I watched it. And then because she wanted to, and then we when we got to the part where he cuts off his foot, I couldn't watch it. So then that's the level that I was at. Now I totally can watch it. It's fine. But what I really like about this movie is that it does feel like a great like psychological thriller. I really like how it gave us James Wan. I really like James Wan, and maybe even more so Lee Winnell. I think just getting those two directors out of it, I think is really incredible. Plus, I just really like a lot of the psychological stuff that they have in it. Just the one bathroom scene, that they have to, or setting that they have to try to figure out all this stuff, and they're playing mind games with each other. And then, Dr. calls in and he's like, "Don't trust Adam," and you're just like, "Oh shit!" So now it's like a whole other kind of mind game that's going on. And the guy on the floor, no one knows what's happening with him until he gets up at the end and says game over. And I think that's like such a really cool twist, because like everyone just thinks that he's dead. And then at the end, he's not. He was the ringleader of the entire thing. You don't know who he is, but that's kind of cool. What's cool about it is that was the guy the whole time. And kind of like thinking about like all of these things, like, well, that could have helped. That could have helped, you don't have to saw through the chains, you saw through your feet, kind of a deal. I think was really cool. And then you had Danny Glover doing his whole thing, like with his obsession, his doing his whole Pepe Silva kind of thing, trying to find the Jigsaw killer. Yeah, there's just a lot going on. I think the only thing that I don't like about the movie is the stuff that Austin said he likes, is all the janky, like, early 2000s, editing style that I think just, is very cheesy and I don't love. But other than that, I think this is actually a really cool movie for a lot of horror franchises, not even just horror franchises in general. When they have a first movie, a lot of the times it's like, don't make any sequels. You don't really need to make sequels. That movie was really good. You don't need to expand on it. This one may be debatable, but I think this could have just worked as a really fun, cool psychological horror thriller from 2004 if they never made another one. And I think that's what, because it doesn't need anything else, is why I would put this one definitely in my top 3, but I would put it as my number 2. Because I like Saw 10 more, but we'll get there. Dylan, what do you think about Saw?
Yeah, I only have 1 more minute left, so I'm just going to quickly go through my Saw thoughts. But yeah, I think it's great for all the reasons you guys have said. I think because I watched these all together, the kind of shock of the first one has still stuck with me, to whereas if I rewatch these, this might fall a little lower. But because of that just initial visceral reaction, it's my number 2, because it had the biggest effect on me until Saw X.
So go ahead and talk about Saw X before you leave.
Yeah, and then I'll send you the rankings so you can rattle it off at the end. I know Austin still has to talk about Saw, but I have to hop off of here, so I'm just going to talk about Saw X because I love it. I was worried it would have that Don't Breathe problem, or Don't Breathe 2 problem, of trying to make this serial killer like kind of a rootable interest. But I think it does a good enough job still addressing the other side of it and kind of playing more in the moral dilemma of he is a serial killer, but he is being wronged very, very clearly by these people. And I kind of like how they don't try to redeem those characters either. It's very clear that they deserve at least to be punished, maybe not to that extent, obviously, of murder, but, the idea that these are probably the most, justified trap victims we've gotten in a Saw movie. But I also just love the style. I love how it doesn't need to be as chaotic in the editing and the cinematography, but it still has that energy and that pacing that the other movies do that I really love. And I think just Tobin Bell is so incredible in it, and to where you can kind of almost struggle as the audience member to be like, wait, am I actually rooting for him? But I can't root for him, but like I want to. It's that moral complexity, which is really, really nice. And I just love what it has to say, again, kind of just about, healthcare and general, not as much as Saw 6 in terms of, making a very, very interesting metaphor to it. But I just love the kind of concept of this whole story. And I feel like it's the only one, aside from the original, where if you watch it completely separate, like I could introduce someone to the franchise with that movie, and I don't think they'd necessarily be confused, whereas a lot of these other films like very much rely on previous continuity or future continuity, whereas this one, it's more so like you can enjoy it not necessarily knowing the rest of the films as well. It helps to know the other ones, especially the relationship with Amanda and Hoffman, but it doesn't need to be there. You can just watch this as its own singular thing, and I think it's amazing. So thanks for having me, Chad. I will send you my full ranking, and this was fun talking with y'all as always.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. That was great.
I know we're dropping like flies. It's like our own little podcast. You know, Hunter went
Saw 5. Now you're out. Now we gotta work together. We'll stick our fingers in the thing now.
All right, Austin, do you want to talk about Saw?
So yeah, it's interesting because I think Saw is a good movie. It's just I talked about it earlier when I just feel like they kind of hit the right formula with the sequels of like the formula that I like. And Saw, sticks out like a sore thumb when you go to rewatch them over and over again because the pacing is different. The setup is different. We don't get much Jigsaw at all. He gives Dr. Gordon and Adam 8 hours to do their shit. That seems out of place when you watch the rest of these movies, especially when Saw 2 gives the guy 90 or 60 seconds at the beginning of the next movie to cut his eyeball out and get a key. That seems very unfair. Because Dr. Gordon had 8 hours to cut his foot off. That seems very, very unfair. So I think it's like James Wan had these ideas. He had these nuggets of like what he wanted to do, and Lee Winnell, like they had this idea of a concept of this killer who, puts people in these conundrums and whatnot and that sort of thing. I just think the sequels kind of did the concept better and like just as for what I like of the series. So it's not a bad movie. Like I have it at number 6. Like it's not bad or anything like that. I just feel like when you're a super fan, kind of like I am, and you go back and watch these movies, it's like it just feels out of place. It feels like a setup movie instead of like a hit the ground running movie. It kind of feels like a slow burn. Like we really got to put all these jigsaw pieces into place for so that the series can run. Like we got to take a couple of baby steps before we can get sprinting. So I just enjoy the sprint more than I like the kind of baby steps at the beginning. So I mean, I'll still watch it. Like I'll watch it every time. It had been a minute since I watched the original one because sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I just start with Saw 2 because I just want to like hit the ground running and just get going. And then this one just again the pacing feels a little off. Like everything's really like taking its time in this one, and it's just like so it's a little wonky, like compared to everything else. But I still think it's a solid movie. Like I don't hate it or anything.
Yeah, totally makes sense. I can get that take actually.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into your Saw 10 thoughts?
Yeah, so I have it at number 4. So like I very much enjoyed it. It's just for me, I can't throw a movie I just saw in the theater like a couple weeks ago right into my top 3. It's not my bag. I can't do that unless I gotta give it a couple of watches. I got to give it a little time. It's like, the same reason I love John Wick Chapter 4, but where am I going to rank it in the series? I don't know. Let me watch it 5 more times and then I'll tell you, and see how it holds up over repeated viewings. So I think there's a lot of really good things going for us, a lot of pros. We get a ton of Tobin Bell. He really gets a chance to like really, really dig in again to this character, the way it's set up. It really takes its time with this sort of like medical drama and I dig that. And the stuff with the scammers, like it's a great setup for, you're not like rooting for him, but you're not rooting against him necessarily either to kind of put these people through some misery, on their way to what they're going to do. And the main lady, whatever her name was, is pretty despicable, especially what she does kind of later on in the movie. My only little nitpicks and knocks and why I can't throw it into a top 3 is what happens to her character at the end. I think is a little like, really?
Yeah.
Okay, unless she's coming back for the sequel.
Yeah.
Which she could, theoretically, but it just left me a little flat and a little unsatisfied. So to me, like Saw 6 has a banger ending. Saw 3 has a banger ending. Saw 2 has a banger ending. And this one, it was like, man, everything was like really good. And then it's kind of like not as much of like a hot ending for me. So like the ending was not as like just up there for that. And I understand that that the actors are older, But my God, does it like bother me at a couple of spots when Tobin Bell in continuity is supposed to still be playing a 52-year-old and he's 80 years old. It really looks like it. And Amanda's wig is terrible. It's horrible. And you can tell she's like 50, still trying to play like a 25-year-old. It's not. I know it's like a nitpick, and I appreciate the actors still there, but it does kind of bother me when I watch the movie, like in trying to put it in that continuity of where it's supposed to be in the series. But again, those are fairly minor things. I still like a lot of the character beats and things like that, and there's definitely some still gnarly stuff. Like, stuff with brains, like doing self-surgery is, I think I'll just wait the timer out and just make my peace. I don't think I'm gonna cut my brain out. No thanks, I'm good. I think I'll just enjoy my last 3 minutes of life. And so whatever. So I really, really like the movie. I think it's really, really solid. I just can't take that leap yet of like, I'm throwing it right at like number one, like right out of, like, I can't do that with a movie I just saw. Like recently. I just can't do that.
No worries. James, what do you think about Saw 10?
Yeah, so I did like this a lot. I think it's better than some of like the more recent offerings from like probably like 5 to Spiral. Like, this was definitely, I thought, better than them. I don't know if I could quite take Jigsaw getting scammed necessarily. I think he's like probably too smart of a guy to necessarily fall for that, because it's not like he did his research on the doctors, but like after he went through it, I feel like that's something he probably would have done beforehand. So I don't know if that's something like I can really get behind.
Hey Hoffman, can you investigate and see if this is legit or not, brother, and see if there's any merit to this using your computers?
Right, yeah.
Maybe make that phone call first, Jigsaw, before you plunk down $250,000.
Right,
All right,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it sets up a good movie, but like,
sure.
I liked. I mean, it keeps true like the Saw like aesthetic. Like the girl, I like seeing her like leg getting cut off in real time or getting decapitated in real time is all cool. I thought the radiation thing was pretty inventive, like to kind of put someone in the position where it's like ironic where they're facing that down was kind of like back to the Saw roots a little bit. I like that a lot. The ending was okay. I kind of had it in the back of my head like that guy with the handgun, they were going to somehow tweak the handgun to not work. Of course, again, Jigsaw's too smart for that. So again, like, how did he get taken by these people? But anyway, so that part of like Saw-ish coming, but it kind of like helped me realize that like they still know what they're doing. Like, he's still smart. He's still ahead of the game. He knows like how to beat these people. It was good, but I couldn't put it higher than 3.
No worries. I do have a couple of things to say from kind of what Austin was saying, because I actually don't disagree. Like, I am also a lot of the times that same way where I'm like, I can't just put something number one when I just saw it, kind of a deal. Like, I was like that with Across the Spider-Verse. A lot of people are like, number one instantly.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, but Spider-Man 2 is still out there, the original Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Well, to me, it'd be like, can we wait for the finale to come out too, and let's see where it plays in this trilogy?
Exactly.
Like, give it some time. I'm not saying you gotta, you can't. You're perfectly fine if you love the movie. That's great. Like, I'm all about it. Just for me, like, if it's a long-running franchise like Saw is, man, like, let me take some time with it, see how it works on rewatches, see how it works with my marathon before the next one comes out, Like, if I maybe even watch it in between 1 and 2, like it's supposed to be watched or whatever, plunk it in there and watch it with that and see how it works, that sort of thing.
I think for me, though, with this one, where this is kind of an exception, is that I'm not a huge Saw franchise fan. Like, I like them, I think, more than other people who hate them or other people who like saw them once. But for me, this one is kind of just like stripped down, and it's like a segmented film that I can just take away from the rest of it and put aside and just go like, this is just one film for me. Kind of like how the first Saw is, and I think that's why I have this one 1 and 2. I just think those are the best at because where Austin like approaches it from I love marathoning the whole thing. For me, like, I also enjoy that, but like sometimes I just want to watch like one good one. And I feel like this one I think is just the best made one, because you guys have made some really good points about, the suspension of disbelief, with like, he's too smart to actually get fooled for that. But then again, I could see like, I mean, he is kind of like losing all his hope, and this is like right after his like diagnosis or whatever, where he's like, in such despair. He's also kind of an older person, and I feel like older people get cooped up in all these scams all the time. Unfortunately, that's not ageism.
Copy and paste this to your Facebook page, and it'll fix all your settings. No, guys, it worked. Copy and paste it to yours. Oh, sorry.
Unfortunately, watch what you're clicking, and so. But that's exactly so you can, I think you can nitpick it a little bit, and you guys were bringing up some good points. But I don't know. I really liked how they recontextualized John Kramer, because for me, exactly what Austin was saying earlier of he's saying that he's never actually killed someone, but
bullshit.
where you're like, well, that's not fair. You never gave that person a chance, stuff like that. And not everyone has been tested. But this one, I like how they the rules seem very clear. The tests, I mean, some of them are ridiculous, like digging into your own brain. I was like, there's no way I would do that either. That's just
no effing way.
Start with that. That's just insane. But even though some of them do feel like they're just way too insane to actually be realistic, I do like how it's really stripped down, and it's like you can see exactly why he put them all there, even if you disagree. And I could see like everyone except for the lady who escapes. Like Austin was saying, like I also don't like that part, but I'm hoping that maybe they rectify it in Saw 11 or 12.
I'm just saying they do leave it open to where she could become a villain. She's got funding; she could go after him.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be doing some more stuff with Jigsaw and Hoffman supposedly in their relationship, but maybe she factors into that somehow. I don't know. Like, if she pops back up, I'm okay with it, and then gets something gnarly, I'm fine with it. But to me, it's just like she's clearly the worst one. She's even turning on the people during the games, and that's it's just like I feel like. If you're not going to kill it, then all right, well, give us that payoff later, and I'll hold off, totally hating it until we see what happens with her. But yeah, I don't know.
I think also, like from like a perspective of John hating that person and like going like you fucked me over kind of a deal, I could see him going like, well, she obviously needs to die. But then the other thing too is like she was so smart, she kind of like she solved all the traps that she needed to. Like she played the game, and she actually was able to survive at the end, and she showed that she wanted to survive. So that way, so I actually could see it that way, where she got ahead of the game pretty much, and was able to actually outsmart everything. But I love this. I love the whole revenge plot, even though like I disagreed with a lot of it. Like I don't think most of those people were. Like she was the mastermind. I could feel like all of those being suckered in and coerced to doing what they were doing. But there's a lot of morality there, but it really does exactly what Dylan was saying, make you go like, wait a second, do I actually kind of sympathize with John with this? Because I think pretty much anyone who sees him get scammed like that would probably go, fuck all those people. Let's do this kind of a thing. But I really like that. I really like John's connection with that kid, and when they put the kid in the trap, I was like, oh my god. So I had like so much dread for that, thinking that kid was gonna die. And I love how the whole him learning to say pool in Spanish factored into the game, and John actually being in one of his traps I thought was really cool for the first time. Amanda's wig was weird, but I also liked her part in the movie and just like everything that came with it. Honestly, I just think this is one of the best films, and I think it's the best Saw film. Or let me say, it's not the best franchise Saw film, but I think it's the best like solo Saw film. If you're gonna watch one, I would tell someone to watch Saw or Saw X. I don't think like Saw 6 would work if you haven't seen any of the other franchises.
No, I wouldn't tell somebody to start at Saw 6. You're not going to know what the hell is going. That's like telling somebody who's never seen an MCU movie to watch Infinity War.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to, what? Who are all these people? What the hell's going on? Why should I care about to get that wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, no, I mean, I do agree. It would be a good kind of lead in for somebody who's interested in the series to see if they can dig it. Because if you can handle like the traps in this one, they're not the most brutal out of like all the things. They're brutal enough, you know what I mean, to where it's like they can compete with some of those other ones. But there's also some like some good acting, some good character work in there. You would be intrigued enough to go like, okay, maybe let's dive into this world a little bit more and like see what all these other people are about. So yeah, it works like that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's essentially why I ranked it so high, is just because it surprised me the most. I saw the trailer and I was like, another Saw movie. And then I saw it got good reviews and I was like, I got to check this one out, because I don't always get to the theater now. I have a child. But when I do go out, I hope I really enjoy the movie. And Saw X just really surprised me. Like, I was like, wow. So I could see it like going lower if I were to watch this franchise over and over. But for now, I just think it's such a solid movie. And I would recommend that one overall to anyone else. But yeah, so now we can go over the final ranking, because Dylan did send it to me. So let's go over this. At number 9, because there is a tie. At number 9 is Saw 3D. At number 8 is Spiral. At number 7 is Jigsaw. Number 6 is where our tie occurs. We have Saw 4 and Saw 5. And then Saw 5, we have Saw 3. Or at 5, we have Saw 3. At 4, we have Saw 6. At 3, we have Saw 2. At 2, we have the original Saw. And then at 1, we do have the new one, Saw X. A lot of the recent ones do end up making it. I believe Across the Spider-Verse won our Spider-Man.
Okay.
I think
Weird.
so. A lot of it happens, even though I tried to not have it happen.
Recency bias, man. You guys got to put that out of your heads and think about the broader context. Come on now.
So that was great. I'm becoming more of a Saw fan. I do like the franchise. I think if you like the style, you can find some really, really great stuff in pretty much all of them, except for maybe Jigsaw if you're Austin. It is what it is, and it is Turbo
Let's
Time.
just say it's the only one I don't own on physical. And you know how many physical movies I own? Huh? Yeah. I own every other one on physical media, and I have Jigsaw on Vudu. That's all I have it on, just so like I wanted to at least give it one more rewatch, and I was like, nah, I'm done with this movie. I'm not even owning this one. Nope, and this one doesn't exist. It's gone.
I mean, it is. If you can strike one from the record, like, it's very easy.
I would strike that one. Yeah, 100%.
Totally fair. But thank you guys. This was a lot of fun. Anybody want to plug any socials?
Just Movie Hero Network is where you'll find me most of the time. Me and Jordan Anderson doing our tournament fight, tier ranker fight, podcasts about movies, Lonely Marks, Wheel of Movies. What else? 800 other shows we do over there. Every other day of the week. Chad's been on there a couple of times. Yeah. He knows what's up. We have a good time over there. We have fun. And you can find me mostly over there, and obviously at Movie Battleground as well, which I alluded to. So but I got some stuff that. The schedule's getting a little wonky because Aaron's the one who postponed, not me. So, some stuff is pre-recorded, but nothing's out right now. But TMG Entertainment, you can find all the Battleground stuff over there.
Yeah, I'm not going to plug like all my stuff. I'll just plug Dylan's thing and Hunter's thing. Dylan is the Dill Pickle Movie Network. We do Picture This over there. We talk about all the Best Picture nominees ever. So check that out. We're doing 1999 this month, where The Sixth Sense came out. So it's kind of a horror tie-in. While we're doing that one. I'm very excited to record that one. My wife, Carrie, who is normally on here, is going to be on that episode. So I'm very, very excited for that. Also check out Hunter's channel, the Nerd Entertainment Network. He does some stuff over there, but mainly with me, Carrie, and Hunter, we do Welcome to Primetime, where we talk about horror. We rank episodes of Buffy, and we've recently been doing horror brackets to try to figure out, like, going through the decades, try to figure out what's in our like biased small panel sample size. What is the best horror film ever made? So we're getting there. We got to get into the 80s soon. Austin's been on there quite a few times. This was and we Hunter and I were talking a little bit about Saw X over there. If you want more of our thoughts, my thoughts, and Hunter's thoughts as well. We dive a little bit deeper into it. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This was a really great time. Yeah, so make your choice, live or die. And wait, are you guys ranking with me?
Game over.